G'day viewers, my name's Graham Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists do what they do.
Well, hi folks. Well, we are in Como in the southern suburbs of Sydney today, and we're with an abstract expressionist artist, a lady that's come all the way from Ireland many years ago to come to Australia, Marnie McKnight.
Hello.
Marnie, welcome to the show. Now, you've had an interesting past in the sense that you started when you were young, you won a competition and you're very influenced from art from a very early age, and then basically started trekking around the world until you ended up meeting your American husband, Ryan.
Yes.
Started a furniture design business.
Yes.
And became quite successful at doing that as well. And then in the process, suddenly discovered along the way that you really loved art.
Yes.
And you love producing art. Tell me a little bit about the journey.
Well, I left Ireland really to travel and to follow the weather, follow the sun, essentially.
Yeah.
And I ended up in Australia eventually after meeting Ryan, and we settled down together here very happily.
Yeah.
And although I had always painted and everything, I had never considered making it a career until we were successful in the business. And I realized kind of that I could make art not only part of my life, but also as an income. And then I really became to really fall in love with it as I practiced more and more, and now I continue, and luckily it's now my full-time job. You
produce a lot of artwork, but you sell a lot of artwork too.
Yeah, I'm really lucky in that way. I kind of came into art at a time where Instagram was really taking off, and I had already had a little bit of an Instagram background with our furniture business, and so I was able to use the styling and the interior design that I learned through that to style my photos and style the artwork. And Instagram really began my business because I was able to sell without actually showing up in a store holding a painting, which to me would have just been way too scary.
Yeah.
So I was able to pop it online and hope that people liked stuff, and they did, and yeah, it just grew from there.
Absolutely.
And now with online galleries and online stores, I can sell around the world, which is
fantastic.
Really lucky.
Yeah, really well done, absolutely. And go into Marnie's site and have a look at what she does, because you can see what a well-organised artist really does to get themselves successful, which is great. But I'm going to step out of shot, as I always do. As I said, Marnie's an abstract expressionist. Brilliant paintings. You love the ocean.
I do.
Yeah, so
it influences everything that I do.
A lot of this is part and parcel of that, but I'm going to get out of shot, and this lovely young woman is going to take us through her process, and we'll see what she does. All right, Marnie, well, how do we begin one of your wonderful pieces?
Well, I use a wet brush. I have a very old brush that I picked up in a store years ago for painting furniture, and it's my very favorite brush. It does its trick. It's very textural.
Yeah.
I use Matisse paints primarily, and do kind of a wet layer. A lot of dipping in water.
Yeah.
Quite dirty water.
And is that basically to get the run that you want? Or?
To get the run, and I like to layer a lot as well. So with the first early layer, I also will use Liquitex paint it and just have a squish into my palette. Yeah. And add it on just to, again, so it can run and create different textures, which I will then use and open up at a later stage of the painting. Tend to use quite round, flowing movements because the early layers are very open and expressive. I get a little bit more technical later on, but at this point it's just about covering the canvas in my base colours.
And your dear husband Ryan, he's very much a part of your business as well.
He is.
And you really do run your art as a successful business, which is a major hurdle for just about every artist on the planet, I'd say. But he makes a lot of your canvases and frames as well, and then delivers the work for you so that you can keep painting.
He does. I really couldn't do it without him. He does a lot of my framing. He also just assists me wherever I need assisting. So whether it's packaging or driving things around or collecting materials, sometimes even dealing with clients, although I prefer to do that myself. The one thing he's pretty useless at is computer work, so keep him well away from that.
Sure, sure.
And the paints, of course, which he's really not successful with. There you go, that's my first layer done now. So I just let that wetness dry in, which doesn't take long because the layers are so thin at this point, but then I can start working on the white areas. This is where I start popping in the paler colors, more earthy tones that I'm using right now. Again, my Matisse paints, but less watered down. So definitely thin layer.
Now, this has been a fairly consistent collection that you've done, you know, based around the water, but there are, say, the reflections of pools or tidal pools as well. And it's really sells quite well for you in a number of different stores and design agencies around Australia. It's quite phenomenal. We've got one piece here called Beautiful Explosions and another one called Confetti Clouds, which very consistent in their presentation but very vivid as well. They look wonderful.
Yes, I'm lucky that Beautiful Explosions now lives in a house in Ireland. And I sell quite a bit overseas, which is really lucky just with the global market and everything. But I feel like luckily the colours seem to apply to houses all over the world.
You also work with a great Australian website, an online platform for arts called Blue Thumb.
I do.
And you know, Blue Thumb is one of those really good platforms that artists can come into and, you know, sell their work to the world basically without having to work with a gallery. In saying that, I still work with galleries and I love to be part of galleries. But you have actually created your business around these entities and you've done really quite well out of it.
I have. I probably wouldn't be where I am now without Blue Thumb. They have the marketing behind them that I wouldn't have as an individual, and I do encourage everybody to join them because they have so much knowledge that as an individual artist you don't have that reach, you don't have that knowledge, especially if you're starting out. An important part of being a successful artist, I think, is being able to run a business, and they do that for me essentially by doing my marketing, organising, putting me through galleries, and they have links into the interior design world, that kind of thing, which really puts you on a different platform. So I tend to dip and colour my paints without changing the brush, just to add the little slices of colour through and a bit more texture. So my water is generally pretty dirty, my paintbrush is pretty dirty, but it adds a lot of texture. I also run my brush in different directions, a lot of curly movements, but right now I'm just kind of marking out where I want the colours to be. It's all really a matter of balance with these kind of abstract paintings.
Yeah.
It's balancing the colours so that it's not too top heavy, too bottom heavy, and also to give me the idea of reflection of water and light, which tends to be a theme through my work.
Now you also have produced a series of works that sell really quite well. I mean, being in Sydney, of course, and the famous beaches Australia has, and you've got one called Coogee in February.
Yes.
Which is a really fun piece. I actually used to live in Coogee, so it's a great place down there. And another one called Beyond the Lighthouse.
That's correct. I love the beach. To me, there's a sense of vibrancy at the beach, and from living in Ireland where the beaches were often a little bit chilly for me. I'm a bit of a cold person. I came to Australia and just wanted to be by the beach. And to me, it embodies the idea of Australiana and the feeling that I get being in Australia in summertime. With these brushes, the base layers are dry now, so now it's time for me to add a little bit more detail. So I tend to double dip. I'll do 2 different colors at once on either side of the brush, and then I will twist the brush just to add a little bit more thickness to the paint, and also a little bit of color change.
Yeah, you've got another piece called Vacation, and that's a different approach again. And we are going to get to see you use some gold leaf as well, which is a big part of your presentation. But that was a bit of an accident at one space, wasn't it?
It was. My best friend who lives in Port Macquarie showed me her final year work when she was an artist, well, when she was a budding artist in school, and it was all gold leaf, and I had never used gold leaf before. So I went out and bought some, and I came home, I didn't really know what to do with it, and I was actually sealing a painting and spraying it, and some of the gold leaf kind of flew and landed, and I thought, oh, that looks all right. I might do some more of that, and that is how I adhere my gold leaf now, and that is how I let it work. I let it fall organically where it wants to. I'm just dipping into some blue paint now, just to, or blue water, just to create kind of a drippy aspect. Because again,
because I see that in a couple of your pieces, and you're just comfortable with that. It sort of adds obviously another dimension to what you're doing.
Absolutely, and because I kind of base my paintings around a water theme, I feel like the flow of the painting is quite important, and to connect to that water idea, I tend to use a lot of it.
Now, one of the things that stands out with you as well, and the reason you've been so successful, is that you look at this as you run a business.
Absolutely. I have always painted. I love it. I've always drawn. However, I do feel like it is a business because I am working, well, I was going to say 9 to 5. I don't work 9 to 5. I work from 10 till 3, and I paint for 4 hours, and then I do administration for 2 to 3 hours a day. The administration thing is the less fun bit of being a painter, but if you want to make it your career, I feel like you have to put in that background work. The fun bit is being in the studio, is doing all this stuff. This is, what brings me joy. But what also brings me joy is actually selling the work and making a business and allowing me to be able to do this every day, which is key. You need to make money to be able to continue.
And in saying that, you work with some fantastic companies, one in Sydney called Penny Farthing Design House in Balmain.
I do. Just recently I have started collaborating with them, and we are doing limited edition prints, which is a different venture for me. I don't know how it's going to go, but seemingly so far it's very successful, so it's really exciting to branch into different areas. Actually, I've recently created a fabric for a design student in Whitehouse Academy who is just doing her final year, and she's put the prints onto fabric and created a whole range of resort wear clothing as well, which is the first time that's happened for me as well. So there are just different opportunities to go with. So now I'm back to my brush that I used wet initially, and I dry it off pretty much completely without cleaning it, just on a kitchen towel. And now I do a layer of dry brushing, but I tend to turn my painting just to give it a different aspect and a different flow, because as I said, I tend to paint diagonally, so this way it'll create texture with both the dry, thicker paint and messy brush. And again, I tend to go circular here, whereas before it was a long, flowy motion initially. I also color in the edges. I do tend to frame all my paintings. We use sustainable Tassie oak, locally sourced, to do that, which I feel really brings the painting alive in the end. However, I do like to have it framed because some people do take it off, especially when shipping overseas. Occasionally people will want to I've had gold frames put on them and stuff to highlight the gold, which we will come to later.
But they're all really well presented pieces as well, which is a great part about it. So speaking about your social networking success, your Instagram page, what's your Instagram address?
My Instagram is all one word, Marnie McKnight Art. I love Instagram. I am generally in the stories part of it.
And you've got a website as well, but as you just said, your Instagram, because there's so many people in there that, and Instagram really is the platform to sell art. And funnily enough, the shapes that you use as well are very much a part and parcel of the success on there too, because if they're a very, very odd shape, they don't really fit the format, do they?
That's correct, yes. And they do actually even say, which I didn't know initially, is that pictures that have a blue hue or have blue in them tend to do better than others. So when I did start painting back in the day when I still had the furniture business, I was doing mainly monochrome, purely because I didn't have any money for art supplies, and so I thought black and white, there you go, I only have to buy 2 colours, done. And I can mix greys, and that's that. And so I was doing mainly monochrome, and that went really well on Instagram. But since then, I have moved into different colours. I'm doing the blues and navies, and with the earth tones, I also have pure earth tone ones. And it doesn't seem to make a difference to my audience. But I have been told that the blue is a very popular colour image on Instagram. A lot of being an artist is consistency, and I think that goes with hand in hand with those kind of platforms as well, which is why I'm not on Facebook, because Instagram is my evil social media of choice. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm taking one of my brushes, which I don't use that often, and a little mix of paints that I kind of put together over time. It is quite a gloopy mix, but with my paintings I tend to have these drippy bits, but I like to have highlighted with a different color every now and again as well, which kind of again draws the eye in different directions, and it's kind of ended up being a bit of a signature of my work. So it's a matter of mixing this up and making sure it's long enough to throw it against the wall, which is the funnest part. Like so.
Look at that.
Done.
How about that?
I'll do another one over here, and I like to kind of have a straight one and a bendy one, because it just kind of makes it a bit softer, a little bit more natural flow. So another one like so. There we go.
That's fun. It's a fun
and then I'll
thing to do.
use, it is. It's fun, but it's kind of a bit of a boom, finish off my painting.
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay, so now here I'm going to add my gold leaf, which is one of my favourite parts as well. It shows that I'm towards the end of my painting, and it's just fun to apply. It did originally, the way I apply it is actually very organic. I just rip it into pieces, the size that I think that I like in accordance to the artwork. And then I use matte spray. I use Boyle's. It's pretty, it's a great finishing sealer, which I use for the whole painting, and just accidentally once gold leaf got on it and it applied it, and I just thought that's the key. So I let it just do its own work.
Sure.
Shake for a bit. I stand back a little bit, position it kind of where I want it to go. I think I'm going to pop this one around here. So give it a bit of a general thing, pop it down. I want bigger than that, I'm going to add some more.
There's an instinctual process coming through again.
Again, it's just, it's just see how I go, see what feels right, what looks right. A lot of this is to do with contrast and proportion. In any kind of abstract work, it's getting the balances right, and I don't want the gold leaf to overtake the painting. I want it to highlight. So it needs to be big enough and yet not take away from anything. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Excellent.
And then because this is the bigger area mass, I'm going to put a larger piece up here. I like to go right from the edge, draw your eye to the edge of the painting. So yeah, I'm thinking here. I'll stretch this out a little.
And so where do you get your gold leaf from?
I get this from the art store. They're quite easily found. This is imitation gold leaf.
Yes.
You can actually get 24 karat gold leaf. So the adheres really simply, and it kind of creates little mountains, which I will actually flatten down once I spray the whole painting down and get the air bubbles out. And sometimes it then reworks itself into a different shape, and I may have to add a little bit more, I can't take away, but add a little bit more to get the shape back to the organic form. It can kind of block itself out.
Yes.
But I quite like the ease of this. It's a flimsy material to work with, and I like to have a bit of airflow through my studio, so it is nice to have it stuck on nice and quickly in the way that it wants to be.
Sure.
Pop this up here, just to highlight that front arm right there. And I think maybe we'll highlight a little bit of what I consider the water area. It's meant to be a bit of a representation of light bouncing off little rock pools and water, so catching the little ripples. The beauty about working with acrylics is that you can paint over it if you're not happy. It's very, very simple. It dries quickly, paint over it quickly. Gold leaf, you're meant to be precise. I'm not, and that's what I love about it, because I'm not a planner. I don't plan any of my paintings in advance. I don't underpaint. I don't sketch out my portraits, anything like that. I just go for it. And that's what I love about the beauty of this process, is it's nice and speedy too. It works, and it gives me the feeling that I want to have from it. It feels organic enough for me. All right, do a tiny bit more up there. Doing it in this diagonal way, it just happens to be the way that I paint and draw, but it also kind of draws your eye from one end of the painting to the other, which I kind of like. It kind of, again, gives a bit of motivation to the painting and a little bit of movement, which is meant to represent the water.
Yeah.
Constantly moving through. There we go. Done.
Excellent. That's really well done.
So I can seal it now pretty much straight away. I'll just give this a little bit of a whirl and start flattening it down on the main points, and then after that, once I know the painting is completely dry tomorrow, I will then spray the whole work, but I also need to be in a very well ventilated area, and today the windows are closed, so it's not going to happen.
Of course. Well, we've actually had a fantastic day with you. It's been very interesting from start to finish, no two ways about it, but it's been wonderful. Your work is just beautiful, it really is, and it's congratulations on the fact that you've become so successful at what you do too. That there's a fine line between getting it right and getting it wrong, and you've gotten it right, which is fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a joy today, but I mean, I wouldn't be here without people actually appreciating it and actually going out and buying art and supporting local artists. So people like you who help promote local artists, the shops that stock me, the people who are behind, you know, choosing to put original art on their wall, they're the real people who should be thanked today. It's pretty
fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, from Como in Sydney, what a fantastic day. Marnie?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you so much. As I said before, this is a great example of a lady that knows her business in her art and knows how to particularly work the internet, I think most of all. So, in saying that, your Instagram page, the address?
Yep, it is Marnie McKnight Art, and my website is marniemcknight.com.
Okay, go in and have a look, because she's a really talented woman, really knows what she's doing as far as her marketing, which is so important. This is really what Colouring Life is about as well. It's sort of adding another platform to what you're doing so you can actually on-sell yourself to the rest of the world, which is great. Come and see us on YouTube and subscribe as well. I mean, we've got lots of people in these days. We've gone past 100,000 subscribers, which is fantastic. And also, you can come and see us on Facebook, make some comments, be part and parcel of what we're doing. But, as we always say, until we see you again, we're going to leave Sydney and make sure we put some colour in your life. See you guys. Bye now.